things local while on the go. Read it on your smartphone or tablet. Download now by searching Bakersfield Californian in the Apple, Google, and Amazon app stores.
This is Strictly Business, presented by the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce. Sponsored in part by the law offices of Young Wooldridge, San Joaquin Community Hospital.
Good morning. I'm Nathan Ollie, Government Affairs Manager at the Greater Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to Strictly Business for Monday, January the 19th, 2015. Today, Dr. Juanita Webb of PAS Associates will be joining us a little later on to chat about meal and rest breaks. And then later in the show, Lauren Smoot, the Director of Policy and Community Affairs for the Kern Citizens for Sustainable Government, will join me to chat about the importance of young professionals getting involved and informed about local politics. And later on, we'll visit with Dustin Pitcher of the Marcom Group. But first, let's take a look at some business news that you can use. Jobless claims have dropped as U.S. employers keep their holiday workers. Fewer Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week as labor market tightening compelled employers to hold on to seasonal hires. Jobless claims dropped by 4,000 to 294,000, according to the U.S. Labor Department. Economists say some employers are finding it harder to fill vacancies, which is causing them to hold on to workers hired during the holidays as the economy expands and consumer spending picks up. The need to keep their staff may mean companies may look to boosting wages in the near future. Taking a look at the California drought, Governor Brown unveils a proposal on how to start spending that $7.5 billion water bond. 2 months ago, in the grip of a historic drought, California voters overwhelmingly approved Proposition 1, a $7.5 billion water bond that will help repair the state's aging water infrastructure. The bond is expected to fund everything from new storage projects to modernization of drinking water treatment plants. As part of his budget proposal, Governor Brown identified how he would like the first wave of the water bond money to be spent. However, constructing new reservoirs is not on the governor's first order of business. The governor's budget calls for spending $532 million from the water bond on 5 key areas. $178 million for restoring streams, rivers, and watersheds, the source of much of the state's water. $137 million for water recycling projects, in which sewage is treated to high levels to be reused for landscape irrigation and other non-drinkable uses, freeing up other supplies for drinking. Also, $135 million for upgrading drinking water treatment plants and wastewater plants, as well as $23 million for funding water conservation projects such as rebates for people buying water-efficient appliances, and $22 million for groundwater management and cleanup. In other state news, pay and benefit costs are going to grow by $560 million in the coming fiscal year. That according to the terms of Governor Brown's 2015-2016 budget proposal. About $467 million of the $560 million increase covers raises already scheduled for many union-covered employees, exempt state managers, and supervisors, according to Nick Schroeder, who tracks state employee costs for the Legislative Analyst's Office. The balance would go to medical benefit cost hikes and other anticipated employee expense increases. The payroll for the state's 220,000 employees costs an estimated $16.34 billion for the current fiscal year. That figure does not include California state university systems or judicial branch employees. 4 union contracts covering about 55,000 state workers expire in July at the start of the coming fiscal year. The governor's budget plan doesn't include any new money for those employees. Also in Sacramento, the governor wants state workers to pay ahead for their retiree health benefits, and that he will take up the issue at the bargaining table beginning later this year. The state faces a $72 billion unfunded liability over the next 3 decades to pay for retirees' medical expenses. For the most part, the state sets nothing aside for those anticipated costs. The pay-as-you-go method is the most expensive way to handle the obligation, says experts and State Controller John Chang. Retiree health benefits are one of the fastest growing areas of the state budget, according to a summary of the governor's budget plan. In 2001, retiree medical bills comprised 0.6% of the general fund budget, or $458 million. This year, those costs have grown 1.6% of the general fund, or $1.9 billion. The governor's budget also envisions health benefit changes for active workers. A federal health insurance law that takes effect in 2018 will levy a tax on the most generous medical insurance plans, which leaves the state and employees vulnerable to the pending Cadillac tax, Brown's budget proposal notes. The administration is proposing changes to the structure of health benefits, establishing a health savings account, and extending how long state workers must serve to receive subsidized retiree medical coverage, which is currently 10 to 20 years depending on when they were hired on. New hires would have to work 15 to 25 years under the governor's proposal. Unions reacted to Brown's proposal cautiously, but credited the governor for his desire to bargain with them on their health care plans. In federal news, the Federal Reserve is planning to send a record $98.7 billion profit to the Treasury. The Fed announced that it made a record $98.7 billion in profits last year, mostly from interest on the more than $4 trillion in bonds it has purchased since 2008 to stimulate the economy. The money, which goes to the U.S. Treasury, is a silver lining to the central bank's unprecedented intervention to boost the economy. Last year's profits were an increase from the record $79.6 billion the Fed made in 2013. Since 2008, the Fed has earned about $500 billion in profits, and the Fed began purchasing Treasury notes and mortgage-backed securities in a program known as quantitative easing during the 2008 financial crisis. Many economists said the effort helped the U.S. recover from the Great Recession. But it's also caused the assets on the Fed's balance sheet to swell dramatically from about $900 billion in mid-2008 to $4.5 trillion today. In education news, Fresno State is honored for commitment to community service. Fresno State was one of the nation's 240 colleges and universities recently honored by the Carnegie Foundation for the advancement of teaching for its commitment to community service. The foundation awarded Fresno State its 2015 Community Engagement Classification, which is an honor bestowed to 360 other colleges and universities. Fresno State students, faculty, staff, and administrators contributed more than 5 million hours of community service over the past 5 years. Campuses with strong community engagement backgrounds are first invited by the foundation to apply for classification. An application process for reclassification was implemented for the 2015 cycle. Fresno State was one of the first schools to earn classification in 2006 when it was first offered by the foundation. Looking at ADA legislation, a new proposal would provide relief for businesses. The new legislation takes aim at serial lawsuits over Americans with Disabilities Act violations, giving small businesses more time to correct any deficiencies and require ADA plaintiffs to prove harm before they can collect money. A series of recent ADA lawsuits in the Central Valley have even compelled some businesses to close, which prompted State Senator Kathleen Gagliani to author the bill. The state's existing rules provide an automatic penalty of up to $4,000 per violation of the ADA rules. The bill would base any penalty on the actual harm shown, and it also would increase the time period to correct ADA deficiencies from 60 to 120 days. Those are concepts the Civil Justice Administration of California has been seeking for a decade, says Kim Stone, president of the nonprofit group that advocates reduction of unnecessary civil litigation in the state. Looking at privacy concerns, the president wants firms to notify customers within 30 days of data breaches. The president proposed last week the first federal standard for data breaches, which would require companies to notify their customers within 30 days of the discovery that their personal information was exposed to hackers. In a speech at the Federal Trade Commission, the president also called for federal protection of information collected from students at school. That proposal is based on a California law which was enacted last year, and it would prevent companies from selling student data to third-party firms for purposes unrelated to education, such as sending them targeted advertising. The president said the proposal to require customer notification of such breaches within 30 days would create a single, strong national standard so consumers know when their information is stolen, and it will make it easier for companies to deal with such hacks. California already requires notification of customers when a company discovers their information has been acquired by unauthorized parties. Companies must make the notification in the most expedient time possible without an unreasonable delay, which is a standard that many states have. In water news, a partnership between the Kern County petroleum producers and local farmers proposes to expand the amount of oil field wastewater used to irrigate crops. The Kern-Tulare Water District has applied for a $7.5 million grant, which would help pay for an $18 million reservoir and pipeline system that would store and convey 6,000 acre-feet of water per year of produced water, which is the salty solution that comes up from the ground with crude oil. Grant winners are expected to be announced this week by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Even if the district's application is unsuccessful, the project will continue to seek funding, according to the California Independent Petroleum Agency, an oil trade group working with the agency on the proposal. The concept of diverting water from the local oil patch to crop land is not new. For decades, Chevron has sent 30,000 acre-feet per year of produced water from the Kern River oil field to the Coelho Water District, which uses it to grow almonds and pistachios. 1 acre-foot is 325,850 gallons of water, which is enough to cover a football field 1 foot deep. Not all produced water is suitable for such reuse, but under the district's plan, water that meets certain quality standards would be blended with fresh water to irrigate pistachios and other crops that are tolerant of mildly salty irrigation. The Water District estimates the project could save the 3 oil producers and 90 participating farmers $3.5 million annually. Some of that would result from lower transportation and disposal costs. Oil producers normally inject their produced water deep underground or let it seep beneath unlined sumps. But both practices have received critical regulatory scrutiny recently, and the oil industry is anxious to find viable alternatives. Looking at education, the UC system received a record number of applications to its 9 undergraduate campuses, with more than a third from Latinos for the first time. Applications from California high school seniors rose by 3.2% over last year, while the number of Latinos, African American, and transfer students seeking fall 2015 admission also inched up. Overall, over 193,000 students applied for entrance to at least one UC campus, which is a 5.8% increase. The number of freshman applications represented a 6.5% increase. Latinos, who make up the largest group of public school students in the state, increased their share of freshman applications to more than a third, or 34.1%. The share of applications from African American students grew to 6.1%. Nearly 103,000 California high school seniors applied to a UC campus, and all 9 undergraduate campuses received more applications overall from California residents. Meanwhile, the rate of increase in out-of-state applications declined. Over 30,000 high school seniors from other states applied for fall, a 16.7% increase from last year, but by comparison, the increase in out-of-state applications from fall 2013 to fall 2014 was about 19%. The university has also come under fire for a plan to boost tuition by as much as 5% each year for the next 5 years, unless the state increases funding for the system. Looking at retail news, December retail sales dropped almost 1% as customers use caution. Retail sales took an unexpected dip in December, which is a signal that shoppers kept a tight watch on their holiday spending despite a boost from falling gas prices and a better job market. In December, retail sales dropped 0.9% to $442.9 billion, the largest fall since January of 2014, according to the U.S. Commerce Department. The boost in spending from October to November was also revised downward to 0.4% from 0.7%. When stripped of the volatile gas, auto, building, and food service sectors, retail sales actually fell 0.4% in December, after rising 0.6% in November. The sober report indicates that U.S. shoppers remain cautious as slow wage growth tempered other signs of a rebounding economy. Average hourly pay climbed a slight 1.7% last year and slipped 0.2% in December, the government said last week. Retail sales in December can be a crucial barometer of consumer sentiment, especially during the make-or-break holiday season when retailers can make up to 40% of their annual sales. Economists keep a close eye on consumer spending because it makes up 70% of U.S. economic activity. Several categories usually are popular during the holidays and recorded a decline, such as electronics and appliance stores, which showed a 1.6% drop in December. Consumers also spent 0.3% less on clothing and accessory shops, while spending fell 1.9% on building materials and garden supplies. That's despite falling gas prices that sent gas station sales falling 6.5% last month. Consumers are paying roughly $1 less for a gallon of gas compared to a year earlier, and California motorists closed out 2014 enjoying the lowest pump prices in more than 5 years. That's a look at what's happening in the business world. We'll take a quick break and come back with more Strictly Business right after this.